how did music find me? I grew up in a tough area. I had a bit of a rough childhood. I grew up in South Chicago. My grandfather bought me a guitar when I was 5, and it became my safe space. It became like the place where I could go to feel safe, and I don't think I recognized that until I was much older. And, literally, like, even here I'll get overwhelmed, and then I'll just be like, I'm going to go check out an acoustic guitar, or I'm going to go check out, I'm going to go upstairs to Yamaha where they have, the quiet piano room, and it still is my safe space. So I think that's how music found me, is that it automatically had just become the place where I truly felt like I could be myself. And I guess this sort of segues back into the last question, where I would be the MIDI box under the thing, just sitting by myself. I think music just found me as a way of therapy, I suppose. When my passion for music began, it would be the moment I was watching the Muppets and Buddy Rich had a drum battle with Animal. And as luck would have it, my grandfather had some Buddy Rich records. And so I immediately was like, I like that music. And he was like, oh, well, here's a bunch of records. And I was probably 5 maybe at the time. And that changed everything. And then all of a sudden I just fell in love with Buddy Rich and Joe Pass, and which eventually led to John Coltrane and all these jazzers. And more interestingly, I suppose, for anybody who's familiar with my music, my sense of rhythm was Buddy Rich solos when I was a child, so that kind of led to how I programmed drum machines as an adult, I suppose. Is the 4 on the floor or whatever, a rock beat was never in my head until I was a teenager. And so it was always virtuosity and, crazy drumming. I think about this a lot when I think about music changing people or music affecting people's moods or behavior. Because, a good chunk of our population of it might be around 7% or 8% or something like that, can't hear music. They can't even hear it. They just hear clanging. Kind of like what we all hear when we're here at NAMM. We just hear, might as well be pots and pans because you have so many things going on at once. And I've actually thought about that multiple times when I've been here. I've been like, this is what it sounds like to somebody. Right off the bat, that's interesting. And then you realize that when you hear music, it's entirely psychological because it's just pressure waves being interpreted through neural pathways. And so you could go 2 directions with that. One, so it's an entirely psychological thing, but also it is pressure waves, and if you break down your hand or your brain or anything else, it breaks down into waves. And so, particle physics, for example, it's very early in the morning to be talking about this, but yeah, with particle physics, everything breaks down into waves and energy waves, and that's exactly what sound is. And so when you could find a chord progression that multiple people will hear and it gives them the chills or it makes them cry, I sometimes, the non-science part of my brain sometimes wants to be like, there's something magical or paranormal happening there. And I guess I'm really going off topic with this question. But I guess my point is that I don't think we could ever even fully begin to understand how music changes people. But, if you mow your lawn listening to Hans Zimmer, it will seem like the most important thing you've ever done. You'll just be like, I'm mowing my lawn. It's an incredible journey. That's the power of music. And so I can't really answer the question the way that I think I'm supposed to, but without going off into a weird science tangent. I don't really consider myself a master. I don't think I could answer that question because I guess I would compare it to rating an ice cream flavor. You never want to give it a 10. If you're going from 1 to 10 or 0 to 10, you always want to stop at 9 because you want to believe that there could be a better cookies and cream out there in the world somewhere. And I don't consider myself a 9 in music either, but I do want to believe that there's always room for improvement. Also, I was never a hobbyist because I think that when I was younger, I just was like, I'm going to be a musician when I grow up. That's it. And at the time, this is like the 80s and 90s, right? And so everybody's like, well, you got to get lucky and you got to get a record deal. And I was like, I don't care. I'll do whatever it takes. I'll be a musician. And then as I got older and, things like rent and food and bills and, adult problems came in, this sounds dark, but my thought process was like, I'm still going to be a professional musician. I'm going to do whatever it takes. And if it doesn't work, then I don't know, I'll die. I have no idea. I'll starve to death. I don't care. And I think that you kind of have to do that to be a professional musician unless you have the gracious help of some big record label that well, I don't know. I mean, a record label will eat up all your money anyway. So I'm really happy that I had that attitude. I don't really recommend having it, but yeah, I think, I don't know. I guess if if professional is master, then I guess it was just, I don't think I've ever been a hobbyist because I've always been all in on everything. You know, and if I got excited about a new project tomorrow, I would put everything into it. You got to take risks. I guess if my music had a smell, it would. Have you ever walked into a vape shop, like a e-cig shop, and everybody's blowing a different flavor at once? It would just, and it kind of just smells like Skittles. So I guess like that, like Skittles or Red Bull. Red Bull kind of smells like everything at once to me. I think that just because I don't like genres, and I feel like every album it sounds like a completely different genre, probably a completely different artist. So yeah, Red Bull or a vape shop. The music I'm doing now, I'm done. For now, I may change my mind in the future. I'm done with Spotify. I'm done with releasing albums. Everything I do now is on a living album. You can go to my website. If you just search the Flashbulb, you'll find my website. It's called Non-Album, and it's literally, you could see the session that I finished last. I upload it. I might change it. You can keep bookmarks of it because I also upload it to GitHub. You can make your own music from it. I'm kind of done with albums being tombstones, with them being like this thing that you finish and then, you know, set in plastic and it has to be under 80 minutes and all these other things. We don't need to do that anymore. So I like the idea of an album being a living thing that behaves more like software, that like has a 2.0, a 3.0, a 4.0, and that's also much more engaging for the fans if they can get over the change of content, which is challenging, but yeah, you can find anything that I work on, it immediately goes there and then to GitHub, and you could download it and work on it yourself and do whatever you want with it. My most recent creation, music-wise, was literally just like a piano song with some strings on it, and I think it was inspired from I took a week off and I went to Florida with a friend and did kind of nothing, and I guess I just had a lot of creative energy after that. And I also had COVID, and so I just sort of did that, made that song right after the vacation. And then I guess video-wise, this entire trip is like a 20 or 21 day trip where I'm just going to a lot of abandoned places across America, like abandoned malls, stuff like that. And I think that is inspired by, and this is something that inspires a lot, I like liminal. I like the word liminal, or things that are associated with the word liminal. I like things that seem like they might not be real a little bit, and abandoned malls are that. You have a lot of memories there, but the stores aren't there anymore, and the whole thing seems kind of dreamy. I'm obsessed with that. And in fact, I really hope that there's a section of Anaheim Convention Center where I can find some empty corporate halls with nothing else going on in them, just some white halls with carpet as far as the eye can see. And I'm gonna try and get behind some locked doors today to see if I could photograph some of that. Top 3 greatest accomplishments. I mean, I guess having a popular YouTube channel is hard work. Pat on my back for that. Obviously growing, I think that the top one would be making a living as a musician without a record label, without a distributor, or without a grant. Just sort of doing it until it works, and making music that's not that popular in like the pop ecosphere or something. I suppose that would probably be like, I'm still surprised that happened. And then, I don't know, I guess paying off my house, that's something I never thought I would do in my life. I did that a month ago and I was like, whoa, wow, I might die on a mattress. It's always hard to answer questions, like to pick one song that has touched you or influenced you or something like that. But, you know, I guess as generic of an answer as it is, like Coltrane's Giant Steps, because I don't understand it. I still don't get it. And you know, it's a puzzle. And I think it's a puzzle for like music theory professors too. Coltrane's Giant Steps, and just the way that Coltrane wrote music, I've never been able to recreate it or been able to recreate anything like it. As much as I've tried, it's been futile. And also, jamming over it is like, you're the best you could be if you're able to play over Giant Steps or improvise over Giant Steps. And so I really like that. That's really, I like puzzles, and that is the ultimate music puzzle, is make sense of giant steps. So I would choose that, yeah, because that's been like, it's still, not a week goes by where I'm not trying to improvise over that progression, and I don't think I've ever nailed it. So on this trip, I have been listening to a lot of Freddie Gibbs, a lot of East Side Chicago rap. Oddly enough, I've just been really into Freddie Gibbs. And this morning, I listened to random gospel music in the shower, because I'm not religious, but gospel music in the shower is something that everybody should try. It really helps. Hearing the joy of even of a religion that you're not part of kind of helps you move on with your day while you're showering and getting ready. If it was my last day on earth, the boring answer is I would probably call my attorney and have my will sorted out. But I think if it was my last day on earth, I guess I would. I think weirdly, maybe my function on this planet, or the most beneficial thing I've maybe done on YouTube or in my career, is really try my best to make artists understand that even if nobody's listening to their music or looking at their paintings or whatever it is that they're doing, that doesn't mean it's not valuable. And if you're not being paid, that doesn't mean that it's not valuable. That just means that somebody's not paying you, and that you should never, ever work for anybody else unless you're being paid. And I guess that would be it's kind of a boring last thing, but it might as well go on my grave. Don't work unless you're being paid. And if you're not being paid, then work for yourself and make your own art and do whatever you want. And don't let genres, don't let audience, don't let any of that stuff affect it, because you only have, I'm about to go tomorrow. It's my last day here. So I, of all people in this mindset, understand that time is very short. So create what you want to create in that time.